Recording in progress. Ladies and gentlemen, please be advised we will be starting a bit late in around 10 minutes. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, please kindly enter the auditorium and be seated because we will be starting very soon. Thank you. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the discussion will commence shortly. We would like to invite all distinguished participants to kindly take your seat. Thank you. Excellencies, distinguished guests, speakers, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to the seminar on Global Terrorism Index 2025, Findings and Lessons Learned for Indonesia. My name is Anastasia Widyautami, and it is my honor to be your host for today's event. This event is organized by the Center for Strategic and International Studies, Indonesia, in collaboration with the National Counterterrorism Agency. For the audience using the interpreting device, I would like to inform you that the translation to Indonesian is available at Channel 1 and the translation to English at Channel 2. The discussion today will reflect on the key findings of the Global Terrorism Index 2025, product of the globally recognized annual study by the Institute for Economics and Peace in capturing the impact of terrorism on 163 countries since 2007. The panel will also facilitate an in-depth examination of emerging terrorism trends and what their relevant policy responses for Indonesia should be. Before we start our agenda for today, please allow me to warmly greet our distinguished guests. May I please welcome Mr. Andika Krishna Yudanto, Deputy for International Cooperation, National Counterterrorism Agency of the Republic of Indonesia, Ms. Silpa Maniar, Counselor at the Department of Home Affairs, Australian Embassy in Jakarta, Mr. Steve Kilele, Founder and CEO of the Institute for Economics and Peace, Police Grand Commissioner Adjutant Maindra Ekawardana, Prevention Directorate, Special Detachment 88, Indonesia National Police, Bapak Yusuf Wanandi, Founder and Vice Chair of the Board of Trustees at CSIS Indonesia, Dr. Yose Rizal Damuri, Executive Director of CSIS Indonesia, and last but not least, I would like to extend a warm welcome to representatives from ministries and agencies, embassies, international organizations and development partners, civil society organizations, academics, media, and all participants who have graciously joined us today, both in person and via our YouTube live stream. Before we proceed with the event, may I invite you to please rise for the Indonesian national anthem. Thank you, and you may now be seated. Now, without further ado, to formally open the discussion, may I invite Dr. Jose Rizal Damuri, Executive Director of CSIS, to the podium to deliver his welcoming remarks. To Pak Jose, the floor is yours.
A very good morning to you all. A warm welcome at CSIS and also to our event this morning. I'm really grateful that you all come all the way to participate in this important event this morning. Allow me first to extend a special welcome to some of our speakers in this event, Mr. Andika Krishna Yudanto, the Deputy of International Cooperation, National Counterterrorism Agency of the Republic of Indonesia. Welcome to CSIS, Pak Andika. Thank you very much for your participation and also our collaboration. And also Mr. Steve Kilelia, from Institute for Economics and Peace, the founder and CEO. I believe you come from Australia, Mr. Kilelia, and then welcome to CSIS. Thank you very much for our cooperation here. And I also would like to welcome Police Grand Commissioner Adjutant Mahendra Ekawardana, from the Prevention Directorate of Special Detachment 88 Indonesia National Police. Thank you very much, Pak Mahendra, for your participation in our event. I would also like to extend my warm welcomes to all distinguished participants here, Pak Yusuf, Pak Jumala, and also representative from Australian Embassy, as well as many other ministries and agencies of the government of Republic Indonesia, and also from representative of embassies here in Jakarta. The topic we brought today, we discussed today, is about Global Terrorism Index 2025 findings and lesson learned for Indonesia. I'm actually not really entitled to be here to speak here because my understanding about terrorism, my knowledge about terrorism is very limited. But as an Indonesian, I know that we have some part of our history that give us understanding that terrorism can be very devastating, actually. And it already caused not only physical damage, economic disruptions, but also loss of life, and more importantly, the shift on the social trust and attitude that might also give us a lot of very difficult situations and very impactful situations. But of course, thanks to our government, especially the National Counterterrorism Agency and also Densus 88, here in Indonesia, we managed to keep the impact of terrorism to minimum. Nevertheless, this issue has become increasingly significant due to its potential risk to international peace and security. It is also a multifaceted challenge that must be understood of its core, as the motivations behind many of the terrorist acts, particularly those in Indonesia, are often rooted in ideological factors. Some terrorist groups, for example, have expanded their networks across national borders at an alarming rate in this interconnected era. and the nature of our globalized world today has made it more difficult for us, for the government, to stem the growing number of terror attacks and expansion of this network. Recently, the Indonesian government decision to disband certain terrorist groups operating within country has sparked some debates. There are differing opinions on whether these actions will reduce terrorism or it might even provoke further resistance from those affiliated with this group. This is why we have organized today's dialogue by bringing together experts and officials who are directly involved in counterterrorism efforts. We aim to offer valuable insights to the public on the evolving global terrorism landscape and the policy steps that we must take to address it. I sincerely hope that today's discussions will help us better understand the implications of the Global Terrorism Index in this report, and also perhaps can come up with relevant policy recommendation and response that Indonesia can adopt in order to deal with the current terrorism trends. Thank you very much again for your participation. Selamat berdiskusi. Enjoy the discussion today.
Thank you, Dr. Yose, for your remarks. Next, I would like to welcome the delivery of keynote remarks from Police Commissioner General Edi Hartono, Head of the National Counterterrorism Agency of the Republic of Indonesia, which will be delivered by Mr. Andika Krisna Yudanto, Deputy for International Cooperation at the National Counterterrorism Agency of the Republic of Indonesia. To Pak Andika, the floor is yours.
Selamat pagi, perkenankan kami menyampaikan keynote speech dari Bapak Komjen Pol Edi Hartono, Kepala BNPT terkait dengan acara hari ini. Perkenankan kami juga menyampaikan permohonan maaf beliau tidak bisa hadir hari ini karena ada kegiatan yang perlu beliau laksanakan, sehingga meminta kami untuk mewakili beliau pada acara ini dan menyampaikan keynote speech sebagai berikut. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat pagi dan salam sejahtera bagi kita semua. Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan, salam Pancasila. Yang kami hormati dan banggakan tentunya Bapak Yusuf Wanandi, founder of CSIS. Yang kami hormati Bapak Yose Rizal, Direktur Eksekutif CSIS, Ms. Shilpa Maniar, Counselor, Legal, Department of Home Affairs, Australian Embassy in Jakarta, Mr. Steve Kilelea, Institute for Economics and Peace, Founder and CEO, Mr. Thomas Morgan, IEP Chief Research Officer, AKBP Mahendra Eka Wardana, Kasubdit Kontra Narasi Direktorat Pencegahan Densus 88, perwakilan negara sahabat, ibu bapak perwakilan kementerian, lembaga, akademisi, dan rekan-rekan media, baik yang hadir secara daring maupun luring. Pertama-tama marilah kita panjatkan puji dan syukur kehadirat Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, Tuhan Yang Maha Esa, karena atas perkenan rahmat-Nya kita semua dapat berkumpul bersama di tempat ini dalam keadaan sehat walafiat. Saya atas nama BNPT menyampaikan ucapan terima kasih atas kehadiran Ibu Bapak pada kegiatan hari ini. Global Terrorism Index 2025 Findings and Lesson Learned for Indonesia. Ucapan terima kasih dan apresiasi juga kami sampaikan kepada Institute for Economics and Peace, IEP, dan Center for Strategic and International Studies, CSIS Indonesia, didukung oleh pemerintah Australia yang telah berkolaborasi dengan BNPT dalam menyelenggarakan kegiatan ini. Kegiatan ini menjadi momentum yang penting dan bertujuan untuk memaparkan temuan utama dari Global Terrorism Index 2025 serta menganalisis secara mendalam tren terorisme dan pola terorisme yang berkembang serta respons kebijakannya. Kegiatan ini juga akan menjadi forum untuk mendiskusikan rekomendasi kebijakan berbasis data dalam rangka penanggulangan terorisme di Indonesia. Ibu Bapak yang kami hormati, analisis komprehensif berdasarkan data tentang tren dan pola terorisme global yang disajikan dalam GTI telah menjadi gambaran yang menunjukkan bahwa ancaman terorisme masih terus ada di berbagai kawasan di dunia. Indikator yang digunakan oleh GTI antara lain jumlah kejadian terorisme, jumlah kematian, korban luka, dan penyanderaan secara berkala menjadi rujukan dan alat strategis untuk melihat posisi suatu negara terkait dengan dampak yang ditimbulkan dari kejadian terorisme. Bagi pemerintah Indonesia, GTI bukan sekedar pemeringkatan atau ranking, tapi lebih menjadi referensi berharga dalam pengambilan keputusan untuk mengembangkan kebijakan dan memperkuat strategi penanggulangan terorisme, baik di lingkup nasional, regional, maupun global. Temuan GTI menggarisbawahi pentingnya kehadiran dan peran negara yang secara proaktif dapat mengurangi resiko ataupun dampak dari terorisme, meningkatkan pencegahan dan ketahanan nasional, serta mendorong kerjasama internasional. GTI telah dirujuk oleh Bappenas dan dicantumkan dalam dokumen Rencana Pembangunan Jangka Menengah Nasional RPJMN tahun 2020 sampai 2024 dan juga RPJMN 2025 sampai 2029 sebagai indikator efektivitas penanggulangan terorisme di Indonesia. Temuan GTI telah mencatat secara positif kemajuan yang dicapai oleh Indonesia hingga saat ini. Ditunjukkan dengan posisi Indonesia pada level medium maupun low impacted by terrorism dalam kurun waktu berapa tahun terakhir. Ancaman keseluruhan dari organisasi teroris di Indonesia terus menurun sepanjang tahun 2024 yang mengindikasikan berkurangnya kapasitas operasional dari organisasi teroris yang ada. Selama 2 tahun berturut-turut, Indonesia juga mengalami 0 serangan teroris atau zero terrorist attack. Lebih lanjut, pada Juni 2024, para pemimpin senior Jemaah Islamiyah atau GI yang berafiliasi dengan Al-Qaeda yang merupakan salah satu kelompok terbesar di Indonesia secara terbuka mengumumkan pembubaran organisasi tersebut. Berbagai respons telah bermunculan terhadap hal ini, mulai dari pandangan positif sampai juga adanya kekhawatiran akan strategi baru kelompok tersebut. Oleh karena itu, diskusi kita hari ini selain menganalisis secara mendalam tren terorisme yang berkembang serta respons kebijakannya, juga secara khusus akan mengeksplorasi mengenai pembubaran Jemaah Islamiyah dan pengaruhnya terhadap landscape terorisme di Indonesia. Ibu Bapak yang kami hormati, sekali lagi kami menyampaikan ucapan terima kasih kepada pemerintah Australia, CSIS, dan khususnya kepada IEP yang telah menghimpun dan menganalisis data tren terorisme global dalam GTI. Catatan posisi Indonesia dalam GTI memperkuat relevansi upaya penanggulangan terorisme yang telah dilakukan pemerintah Indonesia selama ini, serta upaya pencegahan yang terus-menerus akan dilakukan. Pemerintah Indonesia meyakini bahwa meskipun upaya penanggulangan terorisme terus menunjukkan perkembangan yang signifikan, namun terorisme remains a persistent global threat and of course we need to address it. Oleh karena itu kami berharap melalui diskusi ini dapat meningkatkan kesadaran dan kesiapan kita bersama, meningkatkan koordinasi antar lembaga serta kerjasama lintas sektor, serta memperkuat pendekatan whole of society and whole of government dalam upaya pencegahan dan penanggulangan terorisme. Akhir kata, saya ucapkan selamat berdiskusi. Semoga Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala Tuhan Yang Maha Esa meridhoi upaya kita semua dalam mencegah serta menanggulangi terorisme dan ekstremisme berbasis kekerasan di Indonesia. Demi tercapainya tujuan bersama Indonesia yang aman, damai, dan sejahtera. Terima kasih. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Om Santi Santi Om.
Thank you, Pak Andika, for your warm remarks. And to formally close this opening session, we invite Bapak Yusuf Wanandi, Dr. Yose Rizal Damuri, Mr. Andika Krisna Yudanto, Ms. Shilpa Maniar, Mr. Steve Kilele, Police Grand Commissioner Adjutant Mahendra Eka Wardana, and Dr. Syafiah Muhibat to come up to the stage to take a group photo. Thank you. Now for the second picture, may I please invite the speakers to take a picture with the audience. And I would like to invite all the participants in this auditorium to also rise to take the group photo. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. You may now return to your seats. Moving on to our main session. Our main panel session today will be moderated by Dr. Syafiah Muhibat. Dr. Syafiah is the Deputy Executive Director for Research at CSIS Indonesia. Without further ado, I welcome Dr. Syafiah along with Mr. Steve Kilele and Mr. Mahendra Eka Wardana to the stage. Thank you. And Dr. Syafiah, the session is yours.
Thank you so much, MC. So a very good morning, everyone. Welcome to CSIS. My name is Syafiah Muhibat with CSIS. So it's an honor for me to chair this session. This is a panel discussion, which is the main session for our event today. So a very warm welcome to everyone. Thank you for coming all the way here to CSIS to join us in this wonderful discussion today. So as has been mentioned earlier by the opening remarks and also by the keynote speech, we are here today to discuss the Global Terrorism Index 2025, which was just launched a few weeks ago, I believe, by the Institute for Economics and Peace. So the index itself has been issued by or published by IEP since, I think, 2012, if I'm not mistaken. So annually, every year, IEP launches the index, which covers, I think, all the countries and rank them according some of the calculations that is conducted by the Institute. And as we've heard as well, the index has been widely cited. So that's why we think that it's very proper that we try to discuss a little bit more of what was issued in the index this year and try to find some of the findings and lessons that can be learned for Indonesia, because we understand that terrorism threats have been, and it's up and downs in most of the countries, but I think also including in Indonesia. So I thought we thought at this and CSIS in collaboration with BNPT, we think that it would be very appropriate if we give this index a further study, a further analysis and discussion, and try to really point that to some of the issues that are experienced here in Indonesia. And for that, we are very privileged to have two speakers to join us in this panel discussion. The first one is, of course, the founder and CEO of IEP himself, Mr. Steve Kilele. So thank you again for coming here to Jakarta to CSIS to share some of the findings of the index this year. Mr. Kilele founded IEP in 2007, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, and he is also the founder of the Global Peace Index, the world's leading measure of global peacefulness. He today will present the key findings from the index this year, particularly focusing on Indonesia and also Southeast Asia. The second speaker is Police Grand Commissioner Adjutant Mahendra Eka Wardana, from the Prevention Directorate of the Special Detachment 88 Anti-Terrorism of the Indonesian National Police. So in his capacity, Pak Mahendra, if I may call you that, focuses on countering the dissemination of radical and extremist narratives, particularly those propagated through digital media platforms. And today, he will enrich the discussion by giving us an explanation about the disbandment of Jemaah Islamiyah, which I think is very much relevant to our discussion today, as well as the implications and political consequences. So I think without further ado, I would like to ask Steve, if I may call you that, to give your presentation.
All right, thank you. So, it's my pleasure to be here. In my youth, I spent a lot of time in Indonesia. I spent one period of 4 months, another period of 6 months. This presentation is very close to my heart, because in 2002, my brother had 2 daughters who were in Bali. They arrived that day, didn't go to the Sari Club, but 3 of their friends did, who were killed in the bombing. So, without more to do, I'll get underway. Clicker's not working. Great start to the presentation. So I might start, still not working. Right, might start with a little bit of background on the Institute for Economics and Peace. It was set up to understand the intersection between business, peace and economics, places special emphasis on metrics to measure peace, and then to ascribe an economic value to changes in peace. We've got 6 offices in different parts of the world: New York, Brussels, Mexico City, Nairobi, headquartered in Sydney and The Hague. We're in the process of setting another office up in the Philippines now. We have an extensive network of partners we work with. We do extensive research for people like the UN, World Bank, OECD, Commonwealth Secretariat. And our work see incorporated into organisations like Rotary International and many other partners as well, such as World Vision. We've got a range of different reports we do. These are the major reports, and obviously the Global Peace Index, Global Terrorism are the key ones. But we have many other reports we bring out each year along with very, very short papers. We get exceptionally large amount of publicity on these. Last year we had 45 billion, media impressions globally from about 12,500 different articles as well. And we get about 1 million downline loads of our reports each year and a couple of million visitors to our websites. Anyway, that's enough of the promotion. Let's get into the Global Terrorism Index. So this is a global roundup of terrorism with a small emphasis on Asia, and we'll come back to the detail on Indonesia when we get into the panel discussion. We also have Thomas Morgan with me. Tom is our leading research fellow. Excellent. So he was actually responsible for the development of it. And so if anyone's got any questions on the detail of it, he's the best man to speak to, much better than me, actually. So this is a quick roundup of terrorism globally. Where you see the red, it's very, very bad. Where you see the blue, it's very, very good, and other colours in between. So you'll note there's a particularly large amount of red around the Sahel. That's the epicentre. You'll see at the top, that's Russia, and then we'll find the other major area runs through the Middle East over into Asia. Now, if we look at it now, so if we're looking at the number of deaths from terrorism, that's 7,555 last year. Now, that's roughly the same as the prior year. The large attack from Hamas, which occurred in Israel, we subtracted that away because that was a one-off attack and the largest since the New York attacks in 2001. So terrorism on that level is staying about the same. If we look at the number of attacks, they actually decreased by 3%. But all of that decrease came out of Myanmar. Now, Myanmar, the conflict is actually getting worse, but the terrorism deaths dropped down. Now, without Myanmar, the number of attacks would have actually gone up 8%. So that brings us to a number of different things now. So the number of countries recording a terrorist attack increased from 58 to 66. Okay, so that's 8 new countries, or about 12% more countries were affected by terrorism the prior year. 45 countries deteriorated, only 34 improved. And that's the worst result, I think, from about 2017. So those signs aren't so good. We also found that 98% of conflicts deaths occur in a conflict zone. So again, the mixture of conflict and terrorism go hand in hand. You'll see this particularly reflected in the Sahel. Now, one of the things that takeaways is there were more deaths, there are more conflicts now than any time since the end of the Second World War. And we're expecting the number of conflicts to increase given the current geopolitical circumstances. So terrorism is not likely to go down. The 4 deadliest groups, they were responsible for 11% more deaths. So that's Islamic State, JNIM, TPP, and Al-Shabaab. So it's becoming more concentrated, and with the smaller groups committing more. TPP in Pakistan is the fastest growing organisation. Deaths caused by them were up 90%. To 5,580. Can we see as this year moves on, they're still going to be as bad. 7 Western countries are now in the worst 50 countries in the world. So there'll be a number of points here on Western countries, and part of that will be able to can be related in to things globally. But we haven't got the statistics to actually include a lot of other parts of the world. So 93% of deaths in the West were caused by a lone actor. And that's a very, very big change from a 2017. And the lone actors, as we'll come to in a little while, are very, very hard to stop. Now, lone actors are 3 times more likely to be successful in a group. Simple reason, there isn't a footprint. Their footprint is so much less. Islamic State and its affiliates remain the world's deadliest terrorist organisation. They're active in 22 countries, and that's an increase of 1. They work as a loosely federated network. So there isn't like there's a chain of command with a group of Islamic State people at the top, as it may have been in 2015, 2017 when they had territory in the Levant. That's changed, and now, which makes them very, very hard to stop. The Sahel, it's the most affected region in the world. It accounts for 51% of all terrorist deaths globally. And if we're looking at the West, by this I mean France, UK, US, Their influences in Africa is waning, and that's being picked up by China and particularly Russia in the Sahel. But Burkina Faso is the country most affected, 57%. Now it had a 57% fall in attacks, 21% fall in deaths, but still more deaths there than anywhere else in the world, about 25% globally. But when you look at going down 1 year, you don't want to see it as a trend. If we went back to 2019, with the number of deaths in the Sahel's gone up 10 times, or 1,000%. A fifth of all terrorist deaths were in Burkina Faso, as I just mentioned, but they were followed by Pakistan and Syria. Pakistan, TPP, Syria, that was Islamic State. Niger and Pakistan had the largest increases in deaths, rising by 94 and 45% respectively. Note, in Niger, there was a massive decrease 2 years earlier, and by 75%, and it's come back. And so with Burkina Faso, we can see the same happening. So this gives you an idea of attacks which have occurred globally. When you're looking at the size of the dots, that's the size of the attack. The intensity of the red is the number of deaths. So that gives you an idea of just where it's occurring around the world. These are the 10 most impacted countries globally. And as you look at these countries, you'll note all of them have one thing in common. They're all involved in conflict and have conflict internally inside their countries. And if we look at it, we can see it's dominated by the Middle East and Africa. So within Africa, we have 6 of the countries are actually situated in Africa. Most of them are situated inside the Sahel. Now, terrorism is very, very concentrated. 98% of deaths happen within a conflict zone. So if we take the top 10 countries for terrorism, what we find, they make up 86% of all deaths from terrorism. There are only the other 14% is just made up of a string of other countries. So again, we can see the ability to be able to stop conflict is key to being able to stop terrorism. There are also many, many improvements. So this gives you an idea of the countries which improved. Note that the biggest improvement was in Israel, and that was obviously October the 6th Hamas attack, which occurred in Israel. That has dropped off this year and accounts for that. Now, these are the countries with the biggest increases in terrorism. Again, it gives you an idea. So Niger with 451, it was followed by Pakistan with 333, and then Russia and Iran. Russia and Iran, they were both attacked by Islamic State, very large losses. But both these countries are involved in conflicts in other parts of the world, namely Syria and the Ukraine. This has sucked a lot of their internal resources away, which were used for countering terrorism, and the results is it's made the Islamic State caution chapter easier for them to be able to penetrate into the countries. Now, if we're looking at the region, we're looking at the Asia-Pacific region. Here's a quick breakdown of the outcome in the last year. It also got the number of people killed, which is in each of the different countries, and also the number of attacks. Now, note we have the Indonesia in this. So these are all attacks which occurred in West Papua New Guinea, including the deaths in West Papua New Guinea. Now, some people can debate that. The data source we use comes from a group in London called Dragonfly, and so we use their data and use their terminology and the way they attribute it. So let's have a look now at the trends in terrorism. Let's move on. This is a very, very fast-paced presentation. Presentation will be available for anyone who wants it afterwards. So you just need to ask CSIS, and I'm sure they'll make it available. Okay, now if we look at it since 2018, the number of deaths have actually moved in a very, very narrow band, about 6,800 to about 7,500. So about a 10% variation over that time. Now, if we look at the current state of global conflict, the likelihood of it going on, that's unlikely to improve. Now, if we're looking at the biggest increases in deaths from terrorism, Burkina Faso, Niger, Pakistan. As I said, if we're looking in the Sahel, the number of deaths since 2019 are up 10 times. That's a period of 5 years. So that gives you an idea of just how fast it's progressing there. So if we go back to 2018, the largest improvements were in Afghanistan, Iraq and Somalia. Iraq's now got 1% of the deaths it had, which it was had in 2015. So we've got some people who'll be in Iraq with the government over there, and we're probably going to be looking at a case study on how they've been able to reduce terrorism that much, which we'll do with the counterinsurgency forces there. Now, in the West, attacks in 2017 had fallen every year since 2017 to 2024. Now, last year, the attacks increased from 32 to 52, so that's up 60%. So in the West, there's very, very good numbers on being able to get the number of attacks. We can't get that to the same accuracy in other parts of the world. A lot of this you can relate back to the Gaza war. So massive increase in anti-Semitic and Islamophobic events. And we can see that not only in Europe, we can see it in Australia, US and New Zealand and other nations as well. In the 2 months since the start of the war in the US, anti-Semitic and Islamic phobia events increased by over 270%. So 270% for anti-Semitic events, over 300 for Islamophobic events. So you can see these kind of conflicts move on. And the longer the Gaza war goes on, the more likely there is to be flow-on effects into many other geographies around the world, particularly where there's large Jewish populations. Now this is an excellent graph here. So if you go to the very, very bottom part, that's all other countries. So note how constant that number has been, and that's how constant that number has been. There's been very, very little change in the last 15 years. So what we can see is this underlying level of terrorism is likely to continue. Now, if we have a look at the grey graph at the top, that's the Sahel. Now, note how fast that's changed. If we look at Iraq, that's the bright yellow one in the centre. Again, look how it's changed. And then the red one's Afghanistan. So the key message from this graph is that terrorism's dynamic in areas where it hardly exists. If you haven't got strong governance and resilient societies, it can break out. And similarly, it can meld and change. So with a lot of the Islamic terrorist groups, they meld, change and move from one geography to another. So it's very, very fluid and very, very hard to stop. So now we'll just hit a little bit in the West, because this actually is homegrown terrorism, and it'll apply here within Indonesia as well. So now if we're looking at that, we find that only 8% of the attacks, that's 92% of the attacks, were carried out by individuals, not by a group. And that's the opposite of what it would have been in 2017. Many of them are radicalised online. Now, we're finding radicalisation's becoming faster too. If we went back to 2002, on average, it's about 16 months. By 2015, that would shorten by 40% to 10 months. And today, we're seeing people radicalise within weeks, and with confusing, quite often, ideologies. There's lots of reasons behind it. Isolation is one of them, a general growing of dislike for society, mental health reasons can come into it. Quite often it gives them a sense of meaning, purpose. Quite often they've got grievances with society, sometimes real, sometimes perceived, and generally a lack of opportunity in life, no direction. So there's some of the reasons which come in under it. And it'll be the same in Indonesia. The drivers aren't much different in different parts of the world. The opportunities to self-radicalise are diverse. They're getting more and more. So social media, through gaming platforms, fringe forums, encrypted acts, dark webs all come into play. The number of attacks under 18 we're also finding are increasing, so they're becoming younger and younger. In the UK, 42% of all attacks were considered a youth. That's someone under 18. In Europe, it was 20%, so they're truly staggering numbers. It's difficult for intelligence to uncover. Minimal footprints, quite often radicalised alone. The timeline is short and they're not financed, so there isn't a money trail. And the other thing is they're radicalising online, sometimes from contrary belief systems. So at one point it may be being an Islamic State picking up on jihadist propaganda, but then they might combine it with some conspiracy theories to create their own worldview. Now, this will just give you an idea of the changing dynamics. So the light blue bar is organised groups. So if you go back to 2017, you can see where that is. If you go for the last 4 years, you'll find it's nearly all been lone actors, not much group activity at all. Now, when we look at the profile is very, very similar to what you see with mass shootings. Similar sorts of motivators are the reasons which drive people to commit these kind of acts. And detecting them gets very, very hard. This will give you an idea of the group, the number of which have failed, the numbers which have been launched. Again, if you come back, you can see a very, very big difference. You're 4 times more likely to be successful and launch an attack than if it's a group. Again, back to the low footprint. The Sahel's the area of the world which is most affected, accounted for 51% of all deaths in 2014. Now, Western influence is declining. Russia and China's influence is growing, particularly Russia, when we look through this area of the Sahel. And it's driven by a whole lot of economic reasons, which I'll come to in a second. On a broader, now, this is all part of a broader conflict. 25,000 people died in conflict in the Sahel last year. Just under 5,000 of them was with terrorism. 25,000 is the most people to die in the conflict in the Sahel since we've been keeping records, and that's going back at least 20 years. So it's a growing area of conflict. Now, a number of issues which cause this. This comes back to the stability of governance mainly. If you've got poor governance, it's very hard to have rule of law. You find there's pastoralist conflicts. A lot of the ecological degradation there is amongst the worst in the world. So there's a lot of fighting over basic resources like, let's say, water, food. Economic issues, it's one of the poorest areas of the world. In the past, there's been security abuses by the government. They come in, extrajudicial killings, just trying to clear out the terrorists, but killing a lot of innocent people along the way. And the jihadists are active there, and then overlaid on that, you've got transnational geopolitical interests and competition as well. This massive gold vein running through Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger. Now, this means that for those who've got control of the mines, they've got the ability now to be able to mine that, export it. So for Russia, it's a source of income which they can use to fund the war in the Ukraine. Now, the attacks on gold mines in the last 4 years have gone up by 300%, just to drive it home. Now, also, Niger's got a lot of uranium. I didn't know this till we brought this index out. 7% of the world's supply comes from there, but 25% of European supply. That's now controlled by Russia, and a lot of that would have been going especially to France. So that's an issue moving forward. Now, if we look at it, JNIM is the group which is rising. Islamic State's on the decline. In fact, deaths are down 46% by Islamic State in West Africa. And jihadists are spreading in West Africa. So we're seeing them now move out of the Sahel into West Africa. Togo had 52 people killed. That's the highest ever, and Togo now is on the coast. If they get to the coast, they've now got water routes for the transaction of a lot of the things which they move through their territories. Now, this gives you an idea of the changing dynamics within the Sahel, and so again, the red is the Sahel, and the green is the rest of the world. Okay, we're moving down near the end, towards the end of the presentation. One more small section to go and we'll be done. So this will give you an idea of where the attacks are within the Sahel. One of the things we monitor is measurement sentiment. It gives you a good idea of where the future's going in relationships between countries. So this is the sentiment which you can see within the Sahel towards France, and both reflected in the French press and the media in the Sahel. You can note, you can see the negative intent increasing. We see this generally in the breakout before conflict. You can see the negative intentions increasing over a period of time, quite often for many years beforehand. We could see it, let's say, reflected in the conflict in Gaza between the Palestinians and the Israel as well. So a few slides on the Islamic State, then we'll be done. So Islamic State's the deadliest terrorist group. They had about 1,800 people they've killed. But should be about 40% higher when you start to put unattributed deaths, which are put to them as well. It operates as a decentralised network of affiliates. Each group acts independently, so there's no head to actually attack and cut off. And they're active in 22 countries. That's an increase of 1 from the prior year. Syria and the DRC, Democratic Republic of the Congo, recorded the most Islamic State facilities. Now, Syria had the largest increase, accounting for 280 of the roughly 500 attacks. Islamic State of Khorasan, which operates out of Afghanistan initially and over into Pakistan, has increased its scope from one country, which was active in 2021, up to 5 countries today. They include Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iraq, Russia and Central Asia. Russia and Iran were 2 of the countries with the largest increases in attacks. In 2024, there are 24 plots. ISIS plots foiled around the world. They include places like Israel, Iran, Turkey, Germany, Sweden and Russia. This will give you an idea of the countries they're active in. These are the different chapters. We monitor 9 of their chapters, and this will give you an idea where each of those chapters are active. You'll note that none of those chapters are active in Southeast Asia. And again, this will give you an idea of the deaths attributed to Islamic State by country and regional groupings. So just have a quick look at that. Now, what I want to highlight, if we went back to the 1970s, 49% of all conflicts resulted in a victory. By 2010, that had dropped down to 9%. Well, this is really important. Now, you combine that within the 1970s, 23% of conflicts finished with a peace agreement. That had dropped to 4% in the 2010s. Okay, so what we could see that we were getting we're getting 3/4 of all conflicts finishing in the 2010s. Now we move down to the 2010s. 2024, there are more conflicts now than any time since the end of the Second World War, okay? And that's more than the Cold War. So what we're seeing is the conflicts aren't finishing. So now, if we go down to the 2010s, we'll find that 9% of conflicts resulted in a victory for either the government or the rebels. Only 4% of conflicts finished with a peace agreement. And so this has resulted in so many conflicts today. Additionally, on top of that, 91 countries now globally are involved in a conflict beyond their border. That's more since the inception of the Global Peace Index 20 years ago. 98% of terrorism deaths occur in a conflict. Therefore, terrorism is more likely to increase in the future. And that, my friends, is the end of the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kilele, for your presentations. Very fascinating, and I think learning some of the key findings, and especially the trends. I think it invites some questions. I think from the audience as well. I'm pretty sure is that how do you relate the trends that is occurring globally with some of the trends that is going on in Indonesia or in Southeast Asia? I think so. I do think that some of these discussions will evolve later on in the Q&A. But I think as a bridge to that, I would like now to invite Police Grand Commissioner Adjutant Mahendra Eka Wardana, who will focus on JI, the disbandment of JI. And I think that would be very interesting, trying to learn from the experience within Indonesia and trying to compare that with some of the trends that is occurring globally. So, Pak Mahendra, you have the floor now.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, all of distinguished guests, and then the honorable audience, Pak Steve from IEP, and Pak Jose, CSIS, and then also Pak Andika, Pak Dion from BNPT, and today I'm gonna sharing a little bit presentation regarding with the dissolve of Jamaah Islamiyah on behalf of Pak Kadensus. Yeah, we will try to little bit describing how the JI is one of the biggest terrorism group in Southeast Asia, and then affiliate with one of the biggest terrorist group in the global, namely Al-Qaeda. Nowadays, they was dissolved, and we will see. And then before I start my presentation, of course, I also bring one video. This video will remind us how dangerous Jamaah Islamiyah was. And please, the operator maybe can play.
telah membuka mata kita tentang bahaya ancaman terorisme terhadap kemanusiaan. Terorisme adalah kejahatan global yang harus ditangani secara bersama-sama. Terorisme, apapun bentuk dan motifnya, adalah kejahatan luar biasa, extraordinary crime, dan tentu harus ditindak sebagai kejahatan tanpa memandang agama atau atribusi lain dari para pelakunya. Penanganan terorisme tidak hanya fokus pada upaya penangkapan dan penahanan terhadap pelaku atau penegakan hukum saja, tetapi juga melalui pendekatan kemanusiaan yang berbasis pencegahan. Serangan bom Bali adalah pelecut semangat kita untuk tidak pernah gentar sedikit pun dalam melawan radikalisme dan terorisme. Peristiwa bom Bali merupakan peristiwa serangan terorisme terbesar kedua setelah serangan 11 September di Amerika Serikat. Dan korbannya adalah orang-orang yang tidak berdosa, orang yang tidak bersalah. Oleh karena itu, dalam menangani masalah terorisme, harus kita bekerja sama dengan berbagai pihak. Tidak saja di dalam negeri, tetapi juga kita kerjasama secara global. Karena terorisme tidak memandang satu negara dengan negara lainnya. Jadi kita harus kembalikan pemikiran-pemikiran atau ideologi mereka yang kita anggap, kita nilai itu memang ideologi yang menyimpang. Oleh karena itu, tidak hanya fokus pada penegakan hukum dengan menangkap, menahan, dan membawa ke sidang pengadilan, tapi bagaimana melakukan pendekatan-pendekatan kemanusiaan ya yang berbasis kepada mencegah, menyadarkan kembali dengan proses pencegahan, deradikalisasi itu penting harus dilakukan. Saya juga ingin memberikan dukungan dan semangat kepada Densus 88 dan Polri harus jadi garda terdepan. Terus melawan kejahatan radikalisme dan terorisme. Bravo, bravo, bravo. Bom Bali tetap.
Baik, we back to the presentation slide, please.
Telah membuka mata kita tentang bahaya ancaman terorisme terhadap
Okay, so we start from this current active groups in Indonesia. Maybe this is a little bit different with another country, just like in European and then in US and so many other countries that they have so many various of ideological groups in terrorism. So in our country nowadays we just focus on those three groups. In the center, we as known as Islamic State of Indonesia or NII. This is one of the oldest ideologies. We can say that this is the root of ideologies of nowadays. Another groups brands in our country because NII or Islamic State of Indonesia was established in 49, and then Jemaah Islamiyah itself is one of the brands of NII, which established also in 93 by Ustadz Abu Bakar Ba'asir and Abdullah Sungkar, and then the next generation para Wijayanto is continue the Jemaah Islamiyah in 97, and then when the ISIS was appear in the Iraq and Syria, so one of the Jemaah Islamiyah branch already established also in 2014, Jamaah Ansor Daulah or JID, and now also still exists. And then those brands might have formed from the NII ideologies to those two groups of ideological terrorism. And why Islamic State already established from the history tell us that this is the disappointed from the Kartosuwiryo, one of the contribute in the independence of Indonesia about the decision of Renville Forum, and then they doing rebellion with this movement, and then there was so many cross ideological. That's why Abdullah Sungkar and Kartosuwiryo, they founded the Jamaah Islamiyah organization. And now we still doing monitoring and try to deeply investigation regarding with those three organizations. And then regarding with the videos, before we watched before, Bali Blast in 2022 is one of the biggest attack in our country, in the history, also in the world. This is the second biggest attack after the WC attack in US in 2021. And from this attack, we realized that GI is not a amateur organization. GI is the very established organization. After moving from Indonesia to shifting to Malaysia, made the more big expansion in ideological. It's not only in Indonesia but also in Saudi. In 2022 was so that Jamaah Islamiyah is very well established. And then the next slide shows us that we have the database regarding the attack and then the capture from Densus 88. The blue line shows that this is the number of capturing by Densus 88, and then the orange one is the number of attack. In this fact, we can see that we have quite a bit contrary between the GTI number with the 88 number, because in 2023 and 2024, like Pak Andika mentioned before, that we got zero attack in those 2 years. Why? Because Densus 88 is not claiming that KKB in Papua is one of the terrorism attack. That's why we have difference of the number, because KKB Papua is doing separatism just like in Patani in Southeast Thailand, and then so many other countries. Separatism is different with terrorism. So because why? Because KKB Papua is not bringing ideologies. They only have motivating to make separated with NKRI. So this is a different issue in our perspective, and KKB Papua is handling by some task force and TNI, and we have a different approach with this terrorism. So in the second picture is also shown that this is the number of arrested in 2024. We still have GI mostly, and Ansarud Daulah or AD, and II, and MIT from the center of Sulawesi. MIT is just the local group from the local conflict. So GI and others terrorism group was involved in those in that local conflict, and then they also found or developing one small organization called MIT, and now is still 3 in the prison. And in this gray picture, it still show us that NII is still exists until now, and they also separate and make some splinter group with terrorism activity. So that's why Densus already captured in 2025 is about 5%, and now still in our handlings. And then when we're talking about the GI attack statistic in our country, of course, we can remind that there was doing so many attack, and it's not like ISIS doing a small attack. GI's attack is well serious, organized. So that's why we cannot avoid that GI is a dangerous organization. Just like in 2000, they attacking the Philippine embassy in Jakarta, and then in same years, also doing Christmas Eve bombing. 2021 in Plaza Atrium Senen, this is mall in Jakarta, and then 2002 is Bali bombing 1, and GW Marriott and Ritz-Carlton bombing, also Australian embassy in 2023 and 2003 and 2004, and then the second Bali bombing in 2005, and the last is GW Marriott and Ritz-Carlton bombing, the second in 2009. So this is one of the record from Densus 88, and we claim that this is not the serious attack in Indonesia. And then why GI as the biggest organization in Southeast Asia was dissolved? Because there were so many approach that our government been doing, just like upgrading the legislation. That's why nowadays we have the new legislation about how to handle terrorism. Besides hard approach, we also have soft approach, and then in soft approach, we're doing so many actions, just like prevention, de-radicalization, and so many innovation approach. In hard approach itself, from the early 2000, Densus 88 is concerning about Jamaah Islamiyah. We mapping well about Jamaah Islamiyah, and then we also have collaboration with the founding analyze, and we try to tracking the funding, and after 97, after the second leader Parawijayanto and groups, they also changing their motivation, they also changing their action. Why? Jamaah Islamiyah after 97, they doing some innocent approach also to getting supporting from the society, just like they build some foundation, and then they also make some innocent action in the field, supporting others like disaster victim, and also build so many education center for children. So this is conclude that Jamaah Islamiyah, they want to change their action in the field, and yeah, that's why Densus 88 and BNPT also have to change our approach to this terrorist group. And then the solution of GI declared on 13 June in 2024 in Sentul, Bogor, and the declaration of GI dissolution was read directly by Ustadz Abu Rusdan, accompanied by Ustadz Parawijayanto and all of the GI leaders, and witnessed by hundreds of figures from the group. This is the first meeting, and followed by about more than 40 meetings in all of the cities and province in Indonesia. This is not only in outside of the prison, but also inside in the prison. They declare that they claim the solution of Jamaah Islamiyah. And until now, we note about 8,140 former of GI members are involved this declaration. And the last one, all is gathering in Solo and doing the last declaration in, they attend about 1,200 former GI. And this is bring us so many hope about the trend of terrorism in Indonesia. And then this is the points of the official declaration of the solution. They declare that GI will integrate with the Republic of Indonesia and then ensure that the curriculum and teaching materials from extremist attitude and they will follow the Jamaah Islamiyah, Ahlus Sunnah wal Jamaah. This is the moderate, the majority moderate moderate ideologies in Indonesia, and then establish to review the curriculum and teaching material. This is Densus 88, and BNPT also we engage the religious ministry to make some correction in their curriculum, and also how the government will appear and doing approach also in to the student of the boarding school of GI. And then they also commit to follow the constitution of the Republic in Indonesia, including all logical consequences and commitment. Not only this, they also give note about the somebody who still have owe to the law enforcement, and then they also give so many arms and the military arm from Jamaah Islamiyah groups. Yeah, this is the timeline how Densus is doing an approach from the beginning until the end. So yeah, like I mentioned before, we always mapping GI member and then doing mitigation, how to the strategy pattern, and also engaging the stakeholder in charge, institution, government or non-government. This is what we have done in several countries silently. So before as general declaration, some of the local follower in Jamaah Islamiyah also doing the release of the oath radicalism allegiance. It means that they declare that they're not following GI anymore. And also we doing supervision with religious ministry branch in the field and doing approach together with another institution. Now, that Densus 88 concern is, we still also monitoring the splinter cells and then the potential of spreading the ideology, mostly in the social media, and then involvement, infiltration in the politics or parliament, and then mitigation to the other terror groups. And this is what the benefit that the solution of Jamaah Islamiyah. Of course, in these years we will cutting the GI generation, because it's not only the followers, the leader is ordered all of the GI activity should be stopped in these years, and then they will join to the moderate organization group in Indonesia. And we hope that this will open to the investor and worried anymore about terrorism because nowadays Indonesia is getting safe from the terrorists. And then until now, from the 2023 and the middle of, nowadays is the middle of 25, is still zero attack on behalf of terrorism attack. And then Indonesia rank in World Terrorism Index nowadays is 51st. So it's not only GTI, but nowadays we Indonesia have some like measurement from the University of Indonesia, and then they launching the World Terrorism Index, and they put Indonesia in 51st rank in the vulnerability of terrorism. And then even though the GI has disbanded, the former members still obey the leaders. One of the advantage in Jamaah Islamiyah characteristic in our country, Jamaah Islamiyah is morely like military culture. So if the leader is declare that the organization is dissolved, so the follower will follow the leader. This is one of the advantage in GI. And then also the risk mitigation. We developing roadmap to handling XGI after dissolution. The law enforcement, of course, we will trying to open the file and investigate who they involve with the law enforcement approach. And then dissemination or awareness about the basic of GI dissolution ideology. We also engage all of the ministry, all of the NGO, and also journalists, scientists, how to socialize the dissemination. Then maintaining trust, transparency, and open communication. So until now, is not facing the Jamaah Islamiyah as enemy, but nowadays we engage them, engage the leader, the important figure as a fellow friend to together to reclining the terrorist ideologies inside. And then this is because not the solution by force, but how they also trying to get the second opinion, and the youth generation of GI, they also bring all of the new knowledge about is that still relevant, the jihad ideologies inside Jamaah Islamiyah in Indonesia or in another country nowadays. And then they conclude that nowadays it's not relevant. Even they claim that for almost 40 years for GI they has wrong in their path. So that's why this is by their inside intention how to declare the dissemination. And then we also doing human resources training and empowerment by, of course, engaging the another ministry, just like social ministry, and then planting ministry, and we try to doing approach is not only in the law enforcement but also in economical approach in the to engage them. And then the last one, we mitigate the possibility movement of the splinter cell. This is our biggest anticipate, like what Pak Andika mentioned before. And Densus is not alone by make connectivity in our roadmap. So we is very concerned to this risk, the last risk. And then this is the conclusion. Even though the GI has disbanded, handling SGI, which formulated in the form of the roadmap, still requires quite a long time. That's why we make the roadmap, and then the process of GI itself, the solution is from the hard approach to the soft approach, and there are various concerns from the solution of GI. And this is the glance of the roadmap. We have also mission and vision. We want to realize the integration of the former GI personnel and the family into the NKRI as a whole, so not separately, so also only the husband or maybe the children, but we want this dissolve is until the roots. And then this is the roadmap itself. So we divide it into several years, and now we're still doing a lot of works how to realize until the real integration to Indonesia. And then this is the last but not least. Thank you very much for the kind of attention. It is an honor for me to stand here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mahendra. So we've heard the two presentations, and I think both are very interesting. If I could just, and I think in one way or the other, even though they're speaking on different topics, but I think there are some things that are very much related, and I'm curious to get a quick feedback from Mr. Killia, because in one of the trends that you mentioned in your presentation, the global trend that's ongoing, is that there is actually less and less attacks conducted by a big group, mostly in Western countries. You mentioned about the rise of lone wolf. And I think that relates with the situations like this, where there are big groups in countries like Indonesia, like JI, is actually being dissolved. Do you see a correlation in that there are these big groups are being disbanded, while at the same time there are these rising numbers of attacks not carried out by big groups?
Great, it works. So I think it's quite complex. So now I think a lot comes back to the societal structures within the country. So the areas where they don't disband are areas where you've got weak governance, countries which are reasonably corrupt, where the law enforcement is weak and quite often brutal. So now if we come back and we start to look at Southeast Asia, so you'll find there's a lot of virtuous cycles occurring within a lot of the countries. So we can see, if we're looking at let's say the Global Peace Index, Global Terrorism Index, you can see a number of countries in Southeast Asia are doing very well. Singapore, for example, it's in the top 10 on the Global Peace Index. Malaysia's right on the cusp of going in there. Indonesia's improved quite dramatically. I was just up in Vietnam 4 or 5 days ago, and the improvement in that country is quite amazing. So you've got governments which are improving. You're getting much better organised. The police forces, military. The court systems are becoming fairer and trusted more by the people. You've got the economy rising as well, and all these things come together to form a virtuous cycle, if you like. So the terrorism doesn't arise on its own. It comes out of a whole series of background conditions. Now, if you've got the economies improving, most people within the society see a better future for themselves. They're a lot less likely to be disaffected by society and seek radical and quite often risky alternatives. Now, in other parts of the world, it's very, very different. Certainly the Sahel, when it's racked by the conflicts it's got. We can see in other parts of the world, particularly in Europe, so the economies haven't been doing as well over the last decade or so. There's a lot of internal tensions. And this we can see playing out in a range of different ways. We can see it playing out politically with a concept called fractionalised elites. That's where the elites within a society fight amongst themselves. You can see that particularly in Europe between the far left and the far right, for example. You see it very, very evident in the United States. So one of the concepts we've got is a concept called positive peace. It measures the attitudes, institutions, structures which create and sustain peaceful societies. So now if we went back over the last decade, the US has had one of the largest drops in the world. Now it's still got quite high positive peace by global standards, but you can see it playing out in the political system. If we come round to Southeast Asia, those qualities are improving all the time. And again, that comes back to the resilience of the system, societal systems, and these are the key things which actually in the long run drive change. So well-functioning government, that's improving. That's court systems, the police systems, the transparency and effectiveness, and they all need funding. How do they get funding? They get funding through a strong business environment because you get the money through taxes to be able to raise it. What improves the business environment? Efficiency, lower levels of corruption. Information flows. How do you get appropriate information flows through society? Again, that comes back to the ability of an open press and the ability to be able to get the appropriate information out and control misinformation. Education. How do in your education systems do you get higher levels of education? Because as people learn more, become more rational, they're going to be more reasonable in the way that they view society. And they're some of the things. There are others as well, but they're some of the things. Acceptance, the basic rights of other people. That really helps as well. So for me, the whole thing is quite systemic and very, very broad.
Thank you so much. I'm going to open the floor for some questions and comments from the audience. So if you could just, okay, I have one here. Can I collect a couple more if there's any? If not, then there's a microphone coming right at you. So if you could just use the microphone, please. It's up front here. If you could just briefly introduce yourself so that the audience would know. Can somebody help with the microphone, please?
Great, thank you. My name is Yuki Tajima. I'm the new rector of the Georgetown University campus here in Jakarta. I've been doing research on conflict in Indonesia since 2003, and I remember at the time, it was a real question about separatism, sort of pulling apart the country, whether or not this was the new normal in terms of the frequent terrorist attacks. And since then, Aceh has been resolved, and that was already a remarkable achievement. But actually, even since then, what's even more surprising, I think, for most observers is the ability to effectively have a peace agreement with a terrorist organization, because usually those are even more radical, right? So it's a real testament to the Indonesian government's approach to sort of terrorism, and I think it's a very different approach than what is sort of seen as best practice in the West, which is only the hard approach, right? So the Indonesian approach has a soft approach. I would love to hear, so actually first before that, I think this is something that should be publicized more to other countries, especially in this region. I do some work in Mindanao, in southern Thailand and other places like that, where this approach may actually be more effective than sort of the Western approach, right? So first of all, I think that's an important thing to do. But second, the question that I have is, did you guys, I'd love to hear a little bit more how you actually did the process of getting them to the table and then agreeing to basically dissolving, because that's a remarkable achievement historically. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Can I invite one more question if there's any? If not, I'm going to ask Pak Mahendra to answer the question. That's okay. Yeah, please.
Thank you for the very great question, Pak Yuki-san. So regarding with the solve of Jamaah Islamiyah, how we approach them, yeah, we claim that this is the very unique approach. Is totally different with another countries. They have so many super maximum law enforcement with the terrorists, but because Indonesia have a lot of culture that this is one of the approach to the prisoner and then the perpetrators. We also doing study about how they exposing by extremism ideologies, and then we also find the history root causes, and then we try to solve so many bridging how this terrorist ideology to bring the moderate ideology. And then Indonesia is different with another countries, that Indonesia is the biggest population of Muslim, and mostly they following the moderate ideology, which is we claim as Ahlus Sunnah wal Jamaah. This is also resources for us, and then we have so many ulama, we have so many pondok pesantren or Islamic boarding school in anywhere, so it's not hard to find how is the moderate thing, the moderate understanding regarding with the religion, because yes, Densus is also claim that 98% terrorist group in our country is influenced by the religious ideology. So in those so many phenomena, we doing so many discussion. It's not only in the law enforcement perspective, but also with the religion perspective. We also engage MUI, all of the ulama, to solve this, how to stop this sustainable extremist ideology. And then we find some of the formula how to doing approach. So we believe that to combating the terrorism is not only with guns, but also with education. That's why we bring so many institutions to doing approach. And Pak Andika is one of the funding of RAN. And with Pak Andika RAN, we also engage so many institutions, government and government, NGO, and all of the stakeholders in charge to, we totally combating these ideologies. And then for the law enforcement, of course, Densus business course is law enforcement. We not only ban the activity, and then but also the fundings, the foundation, the profit organization that GI has, and then we start the communication with them, inside of prisoner, and the perpetrator who done their jailing period, we also still making communication, and that is the result of the radicalization. So we want the testimony of the important figures, the former important figures in GI, and then how they testimony about the radicalization, approaching with the ulama, approaching with all of the educational figures, and then they explaining that they have fault, and then in their path, and then we also engage them, maybe like one of the famous actor like Nasir Abbas. People like Nasir Abbas will never can give speech in Malaysia because of the blacklist and so many regulation. But in Indonesia, we still can bring them in the forum, and Nasir Abbas is, doing testimony and explain why he nowadays being moderate because of so many study and then so many lesson learned that he gave and then gave to him, and then there was so many activity, so many innovation that Densus face, and then Densus been doing to Jemaah Islamiyah. And then also we realized that the youngest generation, the youth generation, GI, is more educated than before, because before they is only bringing the jihad motivation, the war motivation, and they're not doing anything with their inside education. They're not, they not get the comprehensive ideologies about Islam. It's only very separate, only small portion about jihad. But nowadays they're trying to get more comprehensively, so they're doing so many study, and then they also get so many inputs from the Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah ulama, and then they realize that this is the wrong path. So we have to stop these ideologies. This is so many approach that, how Densus utilize the Indonesian resources to combating these ideologies. That's why we have so many just like opportunity how to approach GI, and because GI is the one of the core of the terrorism ideologies, so we have very optimistic to doing to all of the extreme groups on behalf of religion, of course, because all of that I mentioned it before. I think that is my answer, Pak Yuki. Thank you.
I'll just make a couple of small comments, and I agree with you. I think there's an excellent case study here, which I think a lot of other countries can learn from. So I think they're developing some case studies, then being able to get them out into the world. George Mason University. George Mason you're from? Sorry? Georgetown. Apologies for that, yeah. Putting it out through your network, because obviously you've got campuses in many different countries around the world. There's quite often when there's low levels of terrorism, a strong, hard military type response is used. That's pretty common, and that's happening a lot in the West. When you start to get large swathes of population which are attracted to a cause, then the approaches have to be different. They have to be much more of the heart and minds. So Morocco, for example, which has got a lot of problems with the returning foreign fighters, you'll find that they've got somewhat similar programs. So in jails, for example, they've got education and training programs, and they take them out of the jails, and then they'll fund them to set up small businesses and such in efforts to pull them around. And then obviously it's pretty common to use ex-people who have been converted over now to go into the prisons and other places which are areas for radicalisation, then to talk about the fruitlessness of their ways.
Okay, thank you. If there's no more question from this room, allow me to get at least one question that is posed to us through our Zoom platform, because this seminar today is held also online. There's a question from Zoom directed to Pak Mahendra. This is from Serve Indonesia. You mentioned about the concerns about the existence of splinter cells after the dissolvement of JI. What is the likelihood of the existence of some ex-JI members who are not happy with the dissolvement of JI and then decide to join another group like JID? Is there a serious concern about this, and how big of a threat is this?
Thank you. The concern about the splinter cell, of course, this is a worry from the 88, just like GI. was splintered from the NII, and then GID also splintered from the GI, and extra. And also we have the threat from the online groups, online individual lone actor and others. Yeah, this is still as a threat for us. Moreover, with this global connectivity communication era, and we also have a threat in the social media, threat in the the internet networks, and so how we try to still monitoring them. Of course, Densus 88 has 34 task force in each region, and this is also different works with another counterterrorism in another country. We concern in each region to doing monitoring each of them, and then we also have analysts who trying to find the potential threat in the lone actor, also in the cyberspace, and of course there is still possibility maybe the follower to doing some splinters, but at least with this movement, at least all of the splinter will open, and then they will motivate, and they want to learn how why the leaders getting dissolved and declared to dissolve. So we hope that the splinter cell is, I mean, not happen, but until now, yeah, we monitor one of true, one and two, maybe more than that. They still get motivated to, doing the splinter, and have intention for, still exposing by radicalization ideologies morely in global network. And then, this is quite challenging. That's why we developing roadmap and try to engage all of the stakeholder, all of the element of this nation to involve to combating this ideology. I think that's the answer.
Thank you. I think we're nearing the end of our session, unless there are any last words that you would like to say. Would you like to say something, Mr.
Well, I'd just like to thank everyone to come along for the presentation. Thoroughly enjoyed being here, and terima kasih.
So thank you. Yeah, so we've come to the end of our session. It's at least for us at CSIS, it's been very useful. Always, learning and updating ourselves about some of the trends globally, and also what's going on with the work of Densus. So thank you so much for both Mr. Kilelia and Pak Mahendra. Yes, go ahead, please.
Thank you. For me, we have a big hope to IEP and next Global Terrorism Index with this phenomena and with this achievement of this Indonesian nation. So we hope that in the future the rank of vulnerability of terrorism will be decreased. Why? Because this is very important for us. This is regarding, this is related with the economical rise, also with the how to make feel safe in Indonesia, in our country. And yeah, this is the biggest hope from all of the society of the Indonesian element, I think. That is the closing remark.
Thank you so much. That is excellent words to end our discussion today. So with that, I would like to ask all of you to join me in thanking both speakers for their presentations today. And I would like to hand back to the MC.
Thank you, Dr. Shafia, for the excellent moderation. And to close our event, may I please invite Pak Andika Krishna Yudanto, Deputy for International Cooperation at the National Counterterrorism Agency, to deliver his closing remarks. To Pak Andika, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. And of course, I'd like to thank the moderator, these speakers, Steve and Pak Maindra, for this really valuable discussion related to the Global Terrorism Index, and of course, the Indonesia's effort with the disbandment of Jemaah Islamiyah, or GI. And I think these are correlating references where you're looking at how the world sees Indonesia's effort in mitigating terrorism, and how we are actually doing that at the local and operative level. Again, as a closing remark, sometimes I'd like to ponder on, because this is something that it should not be stopped here in discussion, but we should look into what are the foods and thoughts of this discussion. So of course, the question was whether we're looking into, and of course, some elements are very important, that in many places in the world, that the drivers of terrorism is actually conflict. But what about countries that do not hinge upon conflict itself? You have Western countries, but you also see there is a rise of terrorism there. Of course, lone actors becomes an imminent importance of that. And what about in Indonesia? If you're looking at Indonesia, based on the Global Peace Index, we are considered as a country of high peace. That means we don't have an escalating conflict within Indonesia. But of course, the GTI also saw. So if you're looking at Indonesia's score on overall, as a food for thought, that from 2020 to 2024, in 2020 we were ranked 37, medium impacted by terrorism. We scored 4.6 out of 10, the score. Then in 2021, it was a better year for, it became, I would say we went down a bit, but we were scored 5.5. But we were still considered as a country medium impacted by terrorism. In 2022, it was also the same number, 5.5. And we are ranked 24. But we were still considered as medium impacted. 2023, we rank 31, but we were considered as a country low impacted by terrorism, but that was the threshold. In 2024, it was on this current World Terrorism Global Terrorism Index, we are now we average 4.1. And now we are now at a country that is medium impacted by terrorism. But overall, that data show that Indonesia is improving, like any other countries within Southeast Asia. The Philippines is doing well, Malaysia is doing well, so there's improvement. It means that what is being done by our law enforcement, by the government of Indonesia, is bearing fruitful outcomes. So this is something that I think is very important to that. And of course, this should be looked into how our government portrays the effort to combat terrorism after within its national development plan. So we call it the RPJMN, Rencana Pembangunan Jangka Menengah, which was adopted by the president, the current president, I think in February this year, based on presidential regulation number 12 of 2025. And the indicator to look into how effective Indonesia is countering terrorism. So our effort in countering terrorism is within the landscape of pertahanan keamanan. So it's in the pertahanan, it's defense and security. And in that regards, they use the baseline of the Global Terrorism Index within that national law. So what we're looking is that for 2024, yes, the baseline is 3.99. And hopefully by 2029, when you see the next Global Terrorism Index, which would be will be produced in 2029, I believe, we should be able to achieve the 3.7 point, which would then make whether or not, that's of course, That's based on the calculation. Maybe we'll be in the low terrorism index, low impacted by terrorism. So this is one that we see. It is some. So again, I'd like to thank the IEP because we have a national document that reflects the importance of indexes within the global setting. Another important element to that is the question is how is Indonesia going to achieve that by maintaining a good, solid defense and security or national security? Is the interventions that we are going to do within a setting of 5 years from 2025 to 2029. And if you're looking at that, so, and that particular reference is made to the National Counterterrorism Agency, the police as well, in combating terrorism, is that it is to enhance the intelligence and the national security in facing the threats, challenges, and as well as disruption towards the national unity, Kutuna Wilayah, and of course the safety of our nation from outside or inside, in order to, as well as to prevent extremism and violent extremism that leads to terrorism through, among others, are first synchronizing the use of historical approach, local knowledge, social economy, in areas of vulnerable to conflict and separatism. And this is how the nation is going to address the issue of terrorism within the setting of national security that also encompasses issues that give rise from conflict as well as separatism. And this is why I believe that the result of the IEP through their Global Terrorism Index encompasses those measures where we see, of course, yes, there is a success when we look at the way the law enforcement have decreased the strengths of various terrorist groups in Indonesia, including Jemaah Islamiyah and their disbandment, as well as how they're handling Jemaah Ansarud Daulah, and of course handling other security issues that have risen in Indonesia, and of course issues that also exacerbate the issue of terrorism when you're looking into conflict zones, as well as where there is an issue of separatism. So again, these are some of the national documents that we can see, food for thought, something for you to take home, take back after you leave this conference. But again, that sort of discussion, those sort of challenges is something that we need to look into. And of course, without that, I would like to thank Steve Kelilia, of course, with Thomas himself, for being here today, presenting the outcome of the Global Terrorism Index, which will certainly enrich our knowledge on how we look at terrorism in a very global outlook. And of course, I'd like to thank Pa Mahendra from Detachment 88. Without you, I'm a very strong supporter of Detachment 88, the success of that. I was speaking with Steve early this morning, and one thing that they wanted to do was to conduct a case study on the success of the Indonesian law enforcement in our effort on terrorism. And I think this is something lesson learned that is not only useful for Indonesia, but it's useful for our countries, other countries, our regional as well as global. So something that's very useful, and I believe that is a warm, welcomed endeavor that we can do between BNPT and the IEP, something that we very much would like to engage and, of course, showcase the success of our law enforcement in maintaining that level of means for combating terrorism. And, of course, I would like to thank CSIS, my wife in particular, for moderating this discussion. because I couldn't have done that better than her. I know Pa Yusuf is angry for me to use. It's called nepotism, but I believe it's fine in this regard. But again, it's a positive. We call it positive engagement. And of course, and she told me to stop talking because she's close to the right time. It's not just about food for thought, but the right to food is human rights. So again, thank you very much to CSIS for that. And again, thank you.
Thank you, Pak Andika. Finally, we have concluded our seminar. I would like to express my deepest gratitude to all speakers, moderator, and representatives of ministries and agencies, embassies, international organizations and development partners, civil society organizations, academics, media, and all participants present in this room and online. We look forward to welcoming you again at our future events. For those present in our auditorium, lunch is provided at the pre-function hall just outside of this auditorium. Thank you, and see you in our future events.